If you've ever rented in Dubai, you know how stressful it can be. Rents here can swing up and down depending on the season, the demand, and even global events. The big question for most people moving or renewing is this: when is actually the best time to sign a lease in Dubai? Choosing the right time can save you thousands of dirhams over the course of a year. And today we're going to break this down in detail. By the end of this video, you'll have an idea of which months are usually cheaper, which landlords are more flexible, and how to time your negotiations so you get the best possible deal out there. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because we cover Dubai real estate, money, and lifestyle in depth. And if you're living here or planning to move here, this content will help you save money and make smarter decisions all around. Alright, let's get into it. First, let's understand why timing matters so much in Dubai. Unlike some other markets, Dubai's rental system is very seasonally driven. A huge chunk of the population here are expats, and their contracts, whether job contracts or housing contracts, often renew on a yearly basis. That means there are months when the rental market is flooded with listings and months when demand is much higher. If you know these cycles, you can pick the right time to negotiate and sign your lease. Now, generally speaking, the most expensive times to sign a lease in Dubai are during the peak moving seasons. Now, these are surprisingly the typical August and September months, right before the new school year starts. Families are relocating, new expats are arriving, and landlords know demand is high. So if you try to sign a lease in late summer, expect less flexibility on rent and fewer options because properties get snapped up really quickly. This is the worst time to be bargain hunting. On the flip side though, the best times are usually the quiet seasons. Based on years of market trends, November through January tend to be favorable months. Now you might ask why. Because the school year has already started, most people who needed to move have already settled in and the demand drops. Landlords with empty units are more motivated to fill them quite quickly, especially before the holiday slowdown or when everyone leaves the country. This is when you'll see more negotiable rents, waived agency fees, or landlords willing to accept more flexible payment terms like multiple checks instead of just one or two. Now, another good window is around April and May. This is right before the summer heat kicks in and just before the busy relocation season. Although this season a lot of people still do leave the country, but it has its own caveats. Many landlords would rather lock in a tenant early than risk leaving their property vacant through the summer when fewer people are house hunting in 45-degree heat. So if you're smart, you can use this to your advantage and negotiate. Let's talk numbers for a moment. According to data from property portals like Bayut and Property Finder, average rental prices in Dubai can swing anywhere from 5 to 15% depending on when you sign. So for a villa in Arabian Ranches renting at 200,000 dirhams a year, timing your lease right could save you 10 to 20,000 dirhams. For an apartment in, let's say, downtown at 120,000 dirhams a year, you might save 6 to 12,000 dirhams. I would say that's real money over the year. Now, location also matters. In family-heavy communities like Mirdif, Arabian Ranches, or Jumeirah Circle, the August to September period is crazy busy. Families want to be settled before the school starts, they're back in the country, so rents spike. But in business-heavy districts like downtown, DIFC, or Business Bay, you'll see more volatility around the start and end of the calendar year when corporate leases expire and companies are moving people in and out of the country. Another factor that influences timing is obviously global events. For example, when Expo 2020 was happening, rental demand spiked in certain areas because of the influx of short-term tenants. Similarly, when new freehold communities open up and come to the market, landlords in older buildings sometimes lower rents temporarily to stay competitive. So while seasonality is the biggest driver, you should always keep an eye on what's happening on a larger scale in Dubai overall. Now let's talk about negotiating strategies, because timing only helps if you know how to play it right. If you're apartment hunting in December, don't just accept the first price. Point out that it's a slow season, show listings of similar units at lower prices, and push for some extras. Things like free maintenance, discounted parking, or more checks. Landlords are typically more willing to bend in quiet months. On the other hand, if you absolutely must move in August, your strategy changes a little. You probably won't get a big discount, but you can still negotiate for things like fresh paint, free chiller, or an additional check or two. Let's also clear up a common myth. Some people think rents drop massively in the summer because it's hot and nobody wants to move. That's partly true for July, and that's why I said there's a caveat to this. But remember, August is the back to school rush, so prices actually climb again. If you're going to use summer to your advantage, aim for June or early July, not August at all. Now, what about renewals? If you already have a lease, the best time to renegotiate is about 90 days before your contract ends. Now, this depends on the Dubai law, of course. Dubai law requires landlords to give you 90 days notice if they want to increase rent. So if you start the conversation early, you can compare the market and push back if needed. If rents in your area have dropped, you can show evidence from RERA's rental index. You stand a much better chance of negotiating a renewal at the same price or even lower. Speaking of RERA, always check the rental calculator. It gives you the legal upper limit for rent increases in your area and the lower limit. Even if your landlord tries to raise the rent, if it's outside the permitted range, you can challenge it with the Dubai Land Department. Now, let's zoom out a little. If I had to rank the best and worst times of the year to sign a lease in Dubai, worst would be late August and September, hands down. Best would be November through January, followed by April to early May. June can also be decent, but you need to move fast before demand spikes again. Now, here's my personal take. I always try to negotiate in December, and that's when my current lease is at. Landlords want to close deals before year end, agents are more flexible, and you can often get a slightly lower rent or better terms. But it also depends on your own situation. If you have kids in school, you may not have the luxury of moving outside the school cycle, which is why families often end up paying more. So to wrap this up, the Dubai rental market is seasonal, and if you know the patterns that have been going on for years over years, you can save thousands of dirhams a year. Don't just look at the property, but look at the calendar as well, because it makes a huge difference. And as always, here's a quick disclaimer. I'm not a legal advisor or a real estate agent. Always double check the latest laws with RERA and compare listings on major portals before making any decisions. And with that being said, that's it for today's breakdown of the best time to sign a lease in Dubai. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and join my YouTube members only group for more deep dives like these ones. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.